Welcome to the Safe Zone with Kimberly Humphreys. I have been working with clients one-on-one to provide a safe place for them to be, feel, heal, and grow through their life challenges. And I am thrilled to have with me today to share his story, Mr. Harold Winey. And as I said, I'm overjoyed because this is a courageous act, and I just commend and am honored for each one who is willing to do so. So can't wait to get started.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's a pleasure for me to be here. Pleasure for me to share my story. You've been very instrumental in helping me. So yeah, I'm happy to dig in.
Great. So we met, as you said, about a year and a half ago. Actually, I remember the day. It was April 1st, 2020.
Wow.
And tell me what you remember about that date.
So it was interesting because we didn't meet to work one-on-one. We met, you invited me to a session as part of a couples session, right? And then you wanted to have a one-on-one with me to just get to know me a little bit in preparation for our couple session. And there was a lot of synergy. There was a lot of connection there. I'd done a lot of self-healing work on myself that you thought was pretty awesome. And you said, I think that there's some things that you could continue to build on, and I'd be happy to help you. And we just kind of clicked, and from that day forward, you've been very instrumental in working with me and helping me to kind of cross some pretty wide bridges.
Which you have. You have. And so this is why I'm so happy that you're here to share this, because I believe there are people out there who could really be encouraged and inspired by your story. And so I remember you sharing with me the journey that you had been on doing a lot of soul searching and just growing. That's what you were doing. And you said to me that you had felt stuck and like you needed someone to work with you one-on-one, or that you could work with one-on-one. And I don't know if it was you that said it or if it was I that said it, that when the student is ready, the teacher will appear.
Right.
And so can you tell us why you felt you found your teacher?
Well, when you're going through this whole self-healing, trying to better yourself, it all starts in your head and in your heart. And a lot of times it's difficult to find people to talk to, because unless they've experienced something very similar or are they on a similar journey, it just makes for that conversation to be, it makes it difficult. Everyone wants to be supportive. They all understand your plight. They understand what you're going through. And you're like, no, really, you don't. And so I felt like I had learned a lot, and I felt like I had discovered a lot, but I didn't have anyone to talk to that could help me sort through it all and figure out, okay, but what does this mean? And how do I take this to the next step? And how do I build on this? And so, again, I think it was just the universe happening the way that it happens. You appeared. That first conversation went extremely well. I was able to get a lot out. You started to wrap some meaning around it and some different thoughts and processes and changing mindsets and all this stuff. And I'm like, this is what I've been looking for right here. This is it. This is going to help me to now take all of these individual puzzle pieces and start putting them together to understand what this whole thing is all about. So again, I'm just grateful. I'm filled with gratitude and just grateful that we found one another and we're continuing to go on this journey together. So I think it's just so awesome.
It definitely is. It definitely is. It's interesting that you use the analogy or of puzzle pieces, because that's exactly how I see it too. This life and these challenges are like little pieces. And when we put them together, well, there you see.
This is what happens, yeah.
What would you say, or let me ask you this, was there a time, that you just felt like there was a point when you felt like this is not working. I just can't do this anymore.
Okay, so which day of the week do you want to pick now? 2021 has been one heck of a year, and my vision and my perspective on it is different today. But I lost my dad in February, so that was a huge blow to me because it was an accident. It wasn't something that we were expecting. Mm-hmm. We're still on the heels of COVID, and we had been quarantined and just going through the struggles of not being able to socialize with the public. My wife decided that she wanted to separate because we had some things that we were trying to work through, and she felt it being best that we did them apart. I was in the midst of trying to grow my business and trying to do some different things entrepreneurially that I was, still trying to find my way. And it just seemed like every single day there was another blow, another negative thing that happened. And so, yeah, there were many days where I was questioning a whole lot of things, and just questioning, why do I even care? I mean, why am I putting energy and effort into any of this stuff? Because I couldn't see what the purpose was behind it, and I couldn't see where I was going. And so, yeah, you've walked me off of the ledge many a days and said, just breathe and let's just finish today. We'll worry about tomorrow. Let's just get through the next 2 hours, the next 3 hours, the next half a day. We'll talk again tomorrow. And so, yeah, I felt like quitting many a days. So happy that I did it.
Right.
And I don't think that I ever would have really quit because I don't have a quitter's mentality.
Yeah.
But I understand how people can get so low until they start to feel hopeless. I get it. I truly understand. Yeah.
You think that, well, I will say this, that you feel like that was the lesson that you learned and why you went through that experience? I mean, that was one of them.
Yeah, so things are a lot different today, and there's a lot more clarity. But I think that there's certain journeys that we go on with our family, with our friends, but then there's certain journeys that you have to go on alone. Those journeys can be very, very lonely, but they're so rich with lessons, and they're so rich with life building to give you the foundation that you need to now go back, help yourself, but more importantly, share and help other people. And I think that's why we're doing this interview today. So yeah, that's what I got out of that.
Huge. What would you say to someone watching this that is struggling and they just feel like there's no help for them?
I would say that it all starts with a mindset. So if you think like a victim, then you are a victim. If you think like a champion, you are whatever you believe you are. And your mentality and the approach to the problem will define the outcome of that problem. And so what I would say to them is, no matter how bad the situation is, know that there's a lesson there to be learned. And that lesson is going to make you a better person, and hopefully it'll make the people around you better people.
Absolutely.
So rather than, well, let me not say that. I think you should acknowledge what you feel. You should go through the grief or the pain or whatever it is you feel. You should be allowed to feel that. That's our right as humans. You are allowed to feel whatever you feel that you should feel. But you can't stay in that place.
Right.
Go down and hurt, cry, cuss, fuss, do whatever it is that you have to do.
Kimberly Humphreys Jr.
Do whatever you have to do, but at some point you have to pick yourself up and say, okay, there's a lesson here. What is the lesson? What should I be getting from this? What should I do about it? How do I approach this? How do I get past this? And then you roll your sleeves up and you start doing the work. And it takes a courageous person to do that,
Yes,
but we all have it in us.
Yes.
Many times you just need someone, Kimberly, to help pull it out of us. And so I would say, work on the mindset, but then find someone that you feel comfortable with, that you trust, that can help talk you through these situations, because there's always light at the end of the tunnel.
Absolutely.
You just have to go through the journey to get there.
Absolutely.
And there's a lot of nuggets along the way that you'll pick up that you'll be so glad that you did the journey at the end. It's never fun.
Never.
But it's worth it.
Yes.
It's
absolutely.
so worth it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What would you say was the hardest part in the process?
The hardest part was just controlling and dealing with the emotions. You know, where you feel good one day, you feel bad the next day. Your feelings and your emotions are raw. It doesn't take much for someone to do something to you to just rub you the wrong way and just send you in a tailspin. And it's just learning to be okay in the moment and try to piece those moments together. But that's what it was for me. You know, it's just controlling the frustration, controlling the anger. I'm not a patient person, so that's definitely something that I've been forced to work on. I'm a technologist. 1 + 1 = 2 is not rocket science. Give me a problem, I'll tell you what the solution is, and let's move on. But life doesn't work that way. It just doesn't. And so you have to give yourself time. You have to give yourself grace. You have to give yourself a lot to just be okay with the situation and be comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yep.
So,
do you have any specific keys that you remember that you received from Kimberly or from me?
yes. You've challenged me on every thought that I've had. And you've asked me, well, how do you feel about this? And I've given you my answer. And you're like, well, why do you see it that way? What if you saw it a different way? And that would frustrate me to no end. Like, what do you mean can I see it some other way? This is how I see it. Yeah, I get it. But could you see it a different way? Could you see it from this perspective? And then once I actually opened my mind to that, well, I guess I could see it from that perspective. Yeah. So maybe it's not all bad. Maybe there is some good. So without going into some very specific details, and I can, but it was really, the keys for me was my perspective and how I saw life and how I saw the things that were happening in front of me. That's my perspective, but it's not the only perspective. And so once you can see other perspectives and you can be open to the possibility that, hey, this wasn't a bad thing, this was a good thing. It was something that happened to me to force me to grow into an area that I probably would never have done on my own. And now I can do all these other things because of that. So yeah, give me some more of that, all right? But you have to get to a certain point where you can see it that way. And that is not easy. But again, that's all part of the growth process.
Yes.
Yeah.
What would you say was the easiest part of the process?
Boy, it wasn't a lot of it that was easy. The easiest part of the process for me has been the ease in which I've been able to share with you. And boy, I've told you some pretty deep, dark stuff that I don't know that I've said to anybody else ever, like no one else. And so the ease in which you made the conversations and the comfort that I felt in sharing those things, judgment-free, not having an opinion one way or the other, but just being able to get those things out and then talking me through them so that I could process how I'm feeling about them, I think it made the process a lot easier. But once again, that's another thing that I'll always be grateful for. So yeah.
Thank you. Well, like I said, it's an honor. I really, truly consider this work that I do sacred work, because of, as you said, it's stuff that you just can't share with anybody.
Right.
And yet it needs to be hashed. It needs to be dealt with. And and I don't do it alone. I invite the power that breathes us into every aspect, every entity, and that's where I credit the success of what I do.
Well, you bring that up, and I want to speak on that for a second, because this is something that's very personal to me, and I don't want to get into a faith-based religious conversation because everyone has their belief, they have their thing. Hopefully everyone believes that there is a higher power here than us. So we'll leave it at that.
Mm-hmm.
In the midst of all these things that I just talked about that happened to me, what I didn't mention was, I caught COVID. My 11-year-old caught it, and in the midst of me taking care of her, I contracted it. And I'm going to circle back to the perspective on that here in a second. The symptoms for me were really, really bad. And I think I had 104-degree fever for like 3 or 4 days in a row. I was sweating profusely and freezing all at the same time. And I woke up one night, Kim, and my clothes were drenched. My sheets were soaking wet, and I'm buried under the comforter because I'm freezing and I'm trembling, I'm shivering. And, I don't want to sound too dramatic, but I felt like that night, this might be the end. I don't know how I'm going to make it through the rest of the night with this. And I started to pray, and, I said, I don't want to complain, and I don't, I'm trying to understand what's happening, and I'm trying to be accepting, but you got to do something about this fever. This is just not working. I don't, and I would say within an hour, the fever was gone, and the chills were gone, and they never came back. And so there's power in prayer. There's power in believing that there's power in prayer. And I stayed in prayer, and many other things started to happen and started to open up for me. And so this would be one of those examples of perspective, right? I could have said, okay, as if I didn't have enough going on. So now you send COVID down here to me? What's the deal there? I could have been frustrated with the people out there that weren't wearing their masks, that wasn't vaccinated, that was walking around spreading this stuff. But what I found was that I had an 11-year-old that had the virus. I checked on her every hour on the hour. I gave her her medicine. I rubbed her back. I put heating pads on her when the body aches were there. I put ice packs on her head when the headaches were there. I gave her her medicine every 4 hours. We were alternating Tylenol with ibuprofen. I was bringing her her food. I was making sure that she was drinking and that she was staying hydrated. And I had an opportunity to share an experience with my child that she will never forget. And oh, by the way, it caused me to catch COVID, but I'm not concerned about that. I would catch COVID another 100 times if I had an opportunity to be there for her and to spend some time with her when she was in need. So it was just a mind shift. I was in a position to help her, and I did. I got sick from doing it, but I would get sick 100 times over again to share that experience with her. So that's one of those examples of getting rid of that victim mentality of why did this happen to me? Well, I was able to do something with my child that's priceless. So,
yes, priceless, exactly.
So there you go.
Exactly. And look, you're both well now.
And we're both well.
And that, like you said, that experience, the effect that your response to it had on you is priceless.
Yes.
It's valuable to you and her and everyone else that'll hear that story.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. I do a lot of training. I do a lot of coaching as part of my business in terms of what I do. And I can teach theory all day. So I can give handouts. I can teach the theoretical part, but people don't connect to words on a piece of paper. They connect to experiences.
Right.
And so there's nothing that I teach that I can't go back and dig into my personal experience and say, hey, this is where I was. So if I was to go back a few months ago, I was giving you a hard time. I didn't understand. I was questioning stuff, didn't understand the purpose behind all this stuff. And, now you look at it and it's like, okay, The business opportunity is starting to open up. I'm repairing and rebuilding the relationship with my wife. My daughter is in a much better place. She's doing amazing in school. All these things are coming together. But that journey had to happen in order for the things that are happening now to take place. And so now I have a testimony. So now when I'm standing in front of people, I'm not telling you what I read or what I heard on Oprah. I'm telling you what I have personally experienced. And I'm here to tell you, you continue to put one foot in front of the other and you keep walking in faith. You may not know where you're walking to, but just know that, boy, there's some pretty cool stuff waiting for you when you get there.
Amen. 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 Well, I thank you. Did you have anything else that you want to say?
I will never be able to thank you enough. Listen, okay, so Kim is a pretty humble person, but listen, this lady called me and checked on me every single day for weeks just to make sure that I was okay. And for that, I will always be grateful. In terms of what you do, I would recommend and recommend again to anyone who is trying to figure out what their path is. They're trying to figure out how to heal from trauma. They're trying to sort through the dysfunction that we all experience in our upbringing and try to understand what our purpose in life is and what we should be doing moving forward. I believe that you are the perfect person to help anybody to figure these things out. And if there's anyone out there who needs someone to talk to, who needs someone to listen, I'm here to tell you that this is the person. So before we go, I would like you to let people know how to contact you if in fact they need to. Name, email address, website, however, what's the best way for someone to contact you in the event that they needed the help?
The best way is to go to heartjoytoday.com. Heartjoytoday.com. There is a contact form on there, and if you put your name, your email, I think it asks for your phone number, just fill it out, and I will get that, and I will definitely be in touch with you as soon as possible. If you want to call, the number is 602-688-2632, and you will receive me. I will answer that number, and if I'm not available, you can leave a message and I will certainly call you back as soon as possible. So there is help for sure.
Well, I've enjoyed this talk. I think we've just scratched the surface. There's probably a lot more for us to talk about, but this was definitely a foundational conversation to lay the groundwork, and anything that I can do to support and help you, I'm here. The same way that I know that you will always be here to help and support me.
Absolutely.
So thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Harold.